From the moment you get the alert,
We do now have a brand new tornado warning in effect for parts of southern St. Mary's County.
until the moment you know that the coast is clear.
The tornado warning has been allowed to expire, and the tornado watch has been allowed to expire in Calvert and St. Mary's counties.
JB Weather is with you.
10:47, I'm Forecaster John Bordash here, continuing to keep you ahead of this dangerous storm. If you're on this being polygon, you want to take those tornado safety precautions. Get to the lowest level of your home.
Covering every angle of every storm.
Continues to indicate winds potentially gusting up towards 65 to 70 miles an hour here towards the Chesapeake Ranch Estate.
Providing unparalleled live local coverage.
Towards Chesapeake Beach in about the next 15 minutes, Huntingtown over the next 20 minutes. Towards Great Mills Road, we're looking at heavy rain, we're looking at those gusty winds, and our Chesapeake Surrounding Futurecast actually did a pretty good job of pinpointing where the storm is that could be potentially producing a tornado.
Stay with JB Weather online, on air, or on mobile for local coverage Southern Maryland can count on. From Southern Maryland's weather leader, this is a JB Weather Report.
Hello and good evening, everybody. I'm Forecaster John Bordash. If you can hear me fine, let me know in the comments before we get too underway. We're trying a bit of a new setup, and we're streaming on many more platforms than we typically do. So again, if we are all good to go ahead and leave a comment. But in the meantime, I'm Forecaster John Bordash with you in the JB Weather Center this afternoon and evening, taking a look at the latest information we have coming in on what looks to be a very active day on tap for Monday. And it seems like we are all good to go. New streaming service we've added on would be we're now live streaming on Instagram. So for those of you that are joining in, I'm happy to see it. That's what I'm looking at right now. Thank you. It's several of you. I like it. Awesome. Yes, Forecaster John Bordash, and we have a busy 24 hours on tap. You have probably seen a lot of information published online about the severe weather threat for tomorrow, and what I want to open up with is this is nothing that I need us to be freaking out over at this point. All we can do is prepare, right? I am not saying that every single house within the Mid-Atlantic is going to be hit by an EF5 tornado tomorrow. And if that's what you're expecting, then you might be disappointed by what actually ends up happening. When we talk about severe weather forecasting, we are looking at really forecasting the potential for how strong storms could get and potentially how widespread they could get. This is an imperfect science. We're forecasting, over a mile worth of the atmosphere 24 hours in advance. A lot can change, and a lot always changes, especially with severe weather. So I want to make sure that we open up with that. Taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow, the Storm Prediction Center has already gone ahead and issued a level 4 significant risk of severe weather for our region. For many of us, this is actually our first time since 2013 seeing a significant risk. The last time that Southern Maryland was included in this was back in June of 2013, which is what birthed JB Weather from the get-go. So it's been a while now. Areas west of I-95, they were placed under a level 4 risk back in 2023, but even still, only the second time within the last 13 years. So this does tell us that we have a pretty high risk on tap going into Monday afternoon. This is going to be due to a cold front that's going to be working through the region as we head into Monday midday. And that's going to kind of kick off a couple of rounds of storms. These storms could produce gusty winds, even a couple of tornadoes. And I think the time frame really to watch, and I can state this from the top, is going to be between about 11 or 12, right around there, the midday hours, going through about 6 to 8 o'clock in the evening. When we take a look at the severe weather threats on tap, it's really going to come in two waves. We're going to see some isolated severe storms start to pop up ahead of our main frontal system. These are those prefrontal storms, and this is really going to heavily rely on what we see tomorrow, overnight tonight going into tomorrow morning. And I think a better way to tell the story is actually getting you right into Cedar Point Federal Credit Union Future View and really tying this forecast out for you hour by hour. So tomorrow morning, sitting about 5 or 6 in the morning, many of us are locked in with cloud cover. There's likely areas of showers, maybe even some heavier downpours that are moving through the region. This is going to be thanks to a warm front that will be lifting north. Now, this warm front is not going to get our region up into the 70s and 80s like we saw last week, but it will warm us into the 60s and potentially near 70. Every severe weather forecast I have worked with over the last 13 years has pretty much started the same way, especially these large scale severe weather threats. How quickly can we get this morning cloud cover and rain shower activity to push out of here? The quicker that occurs and the more breaks of sun that we see across the region midday, that will allow for the atmosphere to become more unstable. The more unstable the atmosphere becomes, the more atmospheric energy storms can tap into and the stronger they can get. The longer you hold on to cloud cover and rain showers, that is going to dampen the severe weather threat because the atmosphere just can't get all that unstable because there's going to be a far less humidity, higher temperatures, really keeping the storms more tame. The way our Cedar Point Federal Credit Union Future View does this right now is it has those rain showers, that cloud cover early on, and then we start to get some breaks as we head towards mid to late morning before we get another round of some showers and storms that pushes through. I'm going to be watching those closely, especially across portions of central Virginia between about 12 and 3 p.m. tomorrow. Those are going to be the storms that, if they are able to develop, could potentially produce a tornado. Those storms are going to be very much reliant on the cold front not moving too fast, so moving at the pace in which we expect it to right now, which would put that clearing the region around 6 p.m. But for the cold front to move slow, and for there to be some breaks in the sunshine, or breaks in the cloud cover, allowing for sunshine, which could allow for those storms to really begin to strengthen. If both of those happen, then we could be looking at some supercell thunderstorms that develop across the Carolinas, central Virginia, even into southern Maryland. This is going to be something that we need to watch during the early afternoon hours. Again, if those things are able to occur, those storms are going to be allowed to pop off. We're then going to see a line of thunderstorms begin to develop and push through the region as we head towards 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. And you can see our future view model has that pushing through just after the evening commute. This line is going to primarily be what brings our region the risk of damaging winds. Let me get you back over to that still image. Prefrontal storms 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Very much dependent on how unstable the atmosphere can become. If we don't see it become too unstable, right, and things kind of stay tame, then these storms likely are not going to be as strong and probably are going to be focused more to the south. I'm also going to be watching how much dry air gets mixed in at the middle levels. We will be humid here at the surface, but if we get dry air at the middle levels of the atmosphere, that's going to act as a cap on thunderstorms. And what you're going to notice is that severe weather forecasting, especially in the mid-Atlantic, is a lot more difficult than, let's say, winter storm forecasting, which is also very difficult. And that's because our waterways, the terrain, just the diversity of the geography in our region, it really does kind of differ from point to point, and we can see minuscule differences. Just a degree temperature warmer in the middle levels of the atmosphere, more dry air mixing in, any of those could either dampen or ramp up the severe weather threat. But it's going to be that main squall line between about 3 and 8 o'clock tomorrow afternoon going into the evening that's going to push through and may bring those damaging wind gusts. We could also be looking at some embedded rotation within that line that could help to produce a tornado or two within that line of thunderstorms. When we talk about the severe weather threats across the region for Monday, I'm really going to be watching that damaging wind risk. The Storm Prediction Center is highlighting that potential of wind gusts between 75 to 80 miles per hour in a few storms, especially within that line. If we see wind gusts up to that strength within these storms, that's going to be causing damage. Now, this is not to say everybody will see that, and I want to make sure you take that away from this weather forecast here. This is not going to be what every single house across the Mid-Atlantic sees, and I'm sure that there's going to be Billy tomorrow that doesn't see anything that says this forecast is a bust. Again, we're talking potential. We're talking about the risk level that is there, and there is somebody or several locations within the Mid-Atlantic that likely will see high-end severe weather. It may not be you, though, but again, big picture, as we take a look at the big picture, this is what we're talking about. That hail threat will be there, especially with those prefrontal storms, that they can indeed develop into supercells. That is always going to be something that we are watching. Few tornadoes will be possible tomorrow. That's a high risk. The Storm Prediction Center actually outlines our region under a 15% risk of a tornado. On any given day, that tornado risk is less than 1%. That's to say that our tornado risk across the mid-Atlantic tomorrow is 15 times higher than what it normally is. So 15% may not seem like a lot, especially if you were to look at my students' grades. 15% is not a high number, but when we talk severe weather forecasting, that is 15 times higher than what we typically see. Flash flooding is not going to be a risk that I'm watching for tomorrow. We are likely going to see a variety of watches and warnings get issued, and I want to bring back the taco graphic because this is one that tends to get a lot of traction. If we see a tornado or a severe thunderstorm watch issued tomorrow, that's just saying that ingredients are there on the table, and honestly, I would expect that probably by mid to late morning tomorrow for one of these watches to get issued. That just says that we have the potential ingredients to have tacos on the table. When we see a tornado warning get issued, that means that we are likely looking at either a confirmed tornado or we are looking at atmospheric conditions likely to produce an imminent tornado in a region. It is very likely one will drop down. This is to say that we have a taco, right? We brought these ingredients together and it's there. We're ready to eat it. Those are going to be your differences, and that is something that I've noticed a lot of people. I see somebody. Some of my students over on the Instagram page say I'm doing everything by grading papers, which, I mean, to be fair, I'm doing this instead of that. It's kind of funny. But this is something that I see a lot of people tend to get mistaken with. What's the difference between a watch and a warning? Let's say a tornado warning gets issued tomorrow. This is not current, but if one does get issued, you're going to see me post this graphic, and this is going to be one that is going to potentially be life-saving. If a tornado is moving into your area, these are kind of like a success, as you go through this checklist, things that should be done. Number one, you need to move indoors. I think that's common sense. We don't need you outside watching to see if there's a tornado. These are not tornadoes potentially tomorrow that are going to look like ones you would see out in the Midwest, like Oklahoma or down in the deep South. These are going to potentially be tornadoes that are rain wrapped. They're going to be very difficult to see, and they're not going to look the most picturesque. Like, you might try to take a picture of it, and you're like, what am I looking at? It's a tornado. It just isn't going to look as pretty. Just move indoors, and you want to move indoors to a building with a solid foundation. When I say that, a trailer, a shed, a pavilion, these are not areas that are going to be safe because you're still exposed to the elements. You want to make sure you're inside with a building with a foundation. You want to be on the lowest level of that building. Now, this could either be a basement, which would be amazing, and right now I would start to think, A, where is this building with the foundation that I'm going to be near tomorrow, and B, does it have a basement? If so, can I easily access it? If not, that is okay. Just take a deep sigh. You're able to stay on a first floor, but then that third point becomes even more important. You want to shield yourself. You want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and honestly cover your body. If there is indeed a tornado with flying debris, you want to make sure you're protected. The story I would always tell on these live streams, it's from my childhood. You know, I grew up with my siblings down in Lesby with my mom, and we lived in a ranch-style home in the Chesapeake Ranch Estates. If you're down in that region, you know that not a lot of houses have basements. I mean, at least ours didn't, because it's not like we had a whole bunch of money. We also had a whole bunch of trees around. So what my mother would do is gather me, my siblings, into the bathroom. That was the only room in the house that didn't have an exterior wall. Would get us into the bathtub with a mattress over top of our head. She would have her pocketbook with her ready to go for any potential weather. And while that seems dramatic, that's not necessarily a bad idea, right? If there's a tornado moving through, you want to have all of those important documents with you. You want to make sure you are staying safe and trying to protect yourself as much as possible. Again, we don't see this level 4 significant risk get issued very much in the mid-Atlantic. Especially this far in advance. So this is going to be something we're going to be taking seriously. Not something we're going to be freaking out about, but this is going to be a forecast that will continue to change and evolve. This forecast has already evolved from Friday when we first started to talk about this, as we've begun to learn more details. Again, things we're going to be monitoring. How fast is this front going to move through? How much dry air is going to be present? How quickly can we clear out that morning cloud cover and those rain showers? If we can clear any of that out, early or at least ahead of schedule, that front is a little bit slower, there isn't dry air, this forecast might need to get ramped up just a bit. But as we stand right now, this is kind of where I'm kind of framing the forecast. Many questions about school closings, delays, businesses for tomorrow. I believe we just got in that Frederick County schools in Maryland will be closing 3 hours early for tomorrow, which I think is a really good move. This isn't because I think everywhere's going to be getting hit by a tornado at 2 or 3 p.m., but given the risk that is there that we don't typically see in our region, it, in my opinion, if I were operating school districts, and I don't, but if I were, I probably would be closing schools early tomorrow in the best interest of safety. While this may still, I mean, timing starting early as 11 or 12, while that might still put students at risk, the risk will only increase after 11 or 12 as you head towards 2, 3, 4 o'clock, with some of our students, especially some of our most vulnerable students, think elementary school students, are getting home by about 4 o'clock. So I genuinely think that is the best call. But we'll see. I would not expect, and I see a couple comments coming in. King George County is on an early dismissal tomorrow over there in Virginia. So we will continue to see kind of what school districts opt to go with. And I don't make that call. I know people want my school odds, but my school odds are just that, just my thought. I have no real say here. But it kind of is like the core of this forecast. What I can start to do is start to get into some more of the in-depth information here and kind of what I'm looking at with our weather models. If that is something that you are not interested in, you're like, JB, thank you for all this information. I don't need the science behind it, which honestly is fair. Sometimes I feel that way. You do not need to stick around. However, you are welcome to. And I'll also try to answer some of your questions that are coming in as we try to go through this. For anyone asking about like what's going to happen in my backyard, I can't tell you. No one can tell you, and we will see. Leslie wants to know if I think we'll go into the pink. Honestly, I don't think so. I think if anywhere is going to be in that very rare level 5 extreme risk. Folks, level 5 gets issued once or twice a year, maybe, nationwide. That includes Tornado Alley in the Deep South. Our region has never been under a level 5 risk. Now, areas in the Carolinas have once or twice before, and that might be the area that has the highest likelihood of that. I'm really going to be watching areas, and actually, if I can bring up a couple of things here, really start to get you into what it is I'm looking at. I think that's what I want. Yep, we could take that. Maybe this version. So this is a current look at radar. The way things are currently standing on William Richmond Inc. TrueView radar. You can see our severe weather outbreak is already occurring across portions of the Midwest. I'll take off the satellite real quick, and you can see those areas in red. Those are areas under that tornado watch or that taco watch. You can see where that long line of storms is. It currently has a lot of warnings. Those pink boxes are your tornado warnings. Those yellow boxes are your severe thunderstorm warnings. And this is all pushing east through Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois right now. And this will continue to work our way. And you even see some snow up north where they've seen 1 to 3 feet of snow across Wisconsin and portions of the upper peninsula of Michigan. The way that our atmosphere is currently set up, we currently have a low pressure system sitting right about there. And actually, let me see if I can make that a little thicker so people can see it. Sitting right about there, you have a cold front that is extending downward, generally like this, and that's where you have your line of severe storms. You also have your warm front that is extended out just like that. It is south of that yellow line, but to the east of that blue line. So generally, right through here, where you are looking at warm, unstable air. We are going to continue to see this low pressure area move further off to the east, and we're going to see this warm front lift further to the north as that cold front comes east. That's what we're going to be tracking. We can already begin to see this happen across portions of the middle portions of the country. I do want to take you into, and I think what is going to be easier is if we, my apologies, still getting used to our new setup here. Into some of our weather models. See what kind of questions we got coming in right now. I wanted to show you that because I think if there's going to be a level 5 risk, and I think the area that is under the highest risk right now is probably going to be this area. That would be the zone that I would be watching for a potential level 5 upgrade. I think outside of that, that level 4 probably does bode well right through this region. I think these are areas that I'm comfortable with. That level 5 could potentially move north and east if it gets issued, if we see this front slow down even more and more warm air is allowed to move up to the north. Let's get you back over here. Let's see. So basically, the longer it stays overcast, the better off we'll be. Jana said is exactly correct. Manassas, I think you're in that level 4 risk, so you could potentially see some rocky weather tomorrow. You should give your students a pop quiz for extra credit if they watch live. Michelle, I should. I know several of them like to pop in here, especially on Instagram and YouTube. Would any tornadoes be more likely to be stronger than what is common for our area? Jan, that is a really good question. That's a perfect segue here. This is our high resolution rapid refresh model. So this is one that updates every hour. I want to get you to a version that takes you into tomorrow. Let's get you severe weather. I'm going to show you that significant tornado parameter. This takes into account the wind shear that we'll see across the area. So that is the twisting and turning of winds through different portions of the atmosphere. The more wind shear you get, the higher risk of a tornado, right? Because if you have winds coming from the east, the low levels, and then coming from the west at the high levels, you start to get that rotation couplet where winds are kind of going in opposing directions and they will begin to spin. When we start to play for our significant tornado parameter, right? And some of you, at least on desktop, should clearly be able to see this. On phone, it might be difficult to see, at least if you're in the portrait mode. As we head into tomorrow, it's going to be, and I guess, there we go, areas with this like lighter colors, a 0.1 to like a 1, that is a noticeable tornado threat, but it's not necessarily like overwhelmingly like, oh, this is going to be a tornado outbreak. 1 to 4 starts to grab my attention. That's where I think we could start to see some isolated, maybe even potentially scattered tornadoes. Once we get over 4 up to 10, especially once you get above 7 or 8, those become values that become rather concerning for me for a potential tornado outbreak. We hardly see values that high in our region, so I will just make sure that I state that. But as we play this forward here, you can start to see some of those lighter colors begin to move forward, begin to move north as we head towards about 6, 7, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. And this is when we start to get values spiking above 1. So any storm that could develop in our region tomorrow is going to potentially have that risk to rotate as early as mid-morning. My issue, though, is I don't think storms are going to be that strong to tap into those twisting and turning of the winds. It probably is not going to be until we head towards lunchtime. You can see by 12 o'clock, you're seeing widespread values of 1 and 2. You're seeing those yellows and especially those oranges begin to pop up. Now, our high-resolution rapid refresh model likes to focus that north of DC across northern Maryland going into south central Pennsylvania, and that is definitely possible. And I think the reason our model is doing that is because at this point in time you would have your cold front sitting generally right through here with your warm front sitting just about through here. What this is going to do is that you're going to have winds coming from the west out here, winds coming from the east, and where you're getting that warm front, you're seeing a lot of forcing right through there. So again, how far north does that warm front get? Because you could see a localized tornado threat where all of these come together. Lots of arrows to show you, lots of twisting and turning of the winds. I'm trying my best not to complicate that too much. But playing this forward, this is 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. You can see right where that cold front moves through, that's where you can get that highest tornado threat. Within that main squall line, you may be able to pop a embedded tornado within the line that can be rather weak but can happen very quickly. And what I want to take your attention to, by 5 o'clock, take a look down towards portions of Virginia. You're getting those levels of 3, 4, getting above 4 towards 5 and 6. Those trying to sneak northward here into portions of southern Maryland, and you can see that very quickly. So, and this is getting towards about 6, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, it starts to come to an end. This is how our high-resolution rapid refresh model sees the potential rotation tracks for tomorrow. This is not to say this is where tornadoes will be or how strong they will be. This does show us, though, areas that we could be looking at those twisting and turnings of winds as storms begin to move through. Something that is definitely catching my eye is that our modeling is pointing out or printing out a potential longer rotation track. This could maybe signify if we do see a tornado touchdown, maybe one that is longer tracked. That's not just on the ground for a mile or two, but maybe 10, 20 plus miles. And the location of this is something I'm really interested in. Those that have lived in southern Maryland long enough know that where you get our waterways, those are areas that are always prone to twisting and turning of winds. And over my 13 years, I can't even count on one hand, or probably not even two, the amount of times we see a storm that gets going here across the northern neck out towards the Tappahannock, and as it lifts north and east, and crosses, across Westmoreland County, gets towards the Potomac, and then into Charles and St. Mary's County, right? Even up over through here, they will quickly turn tornadic. And it's very interesting to me that our weather guidance is already pointing out a potential zone where we could see that occur. And that's going to be something that we need to watch. This is not to say that Newburgh is going to be seeing a tornado at 3 p.m. tomorrow. This does tell us that we will need to watch storms as they cross the Potomac River, no matter where they are. And the areas along the Patuxent River, along the Wycomico River, the Chesapeake Bay, all of these zones will need to be watched. Our North American model does something kind of similar. Let's see, get that puppy to load up, potentially. North American, load it on up, and push this forward. I actually want to get us to... I think what I want is my RRFS. There we go. So this is going to be the new version of the North American model that will be taking over. These values look a little bit more extreme, but just notice the general trend where you can get potentially long rotation tracks, right, as you begin to cross water. Virginia is likely going to be the spot for a lot of this initiation of any potential severe weather. And hail, Jeremy, is definitely going to be potential. I responding to your comment about 6 minutes late, but whenever we talk about a tornado threat, we are also talking about a wind threat, because when we get a twisting and turning of the atmosphere, that's when we're looking at a lot of hail that continues to get cycled through, and once it becomes too heavy, that's when it falls. So hail is definitely going to be something that we need to watch. And it looks like Charles County has gone ahead and done a 2 hour early for tomorrow. We'll get that posted for tomorrow. Anne Arundel is closing early. Hartford, lots of schools look like they are coming in early, closing early for tomorrow, which to me is a really good call. A lot of people want to know how St. Mary's County is looking, and maybe that's because I haven't had the big picture graphic up in a hot second. You can see where St. Mary's County is on there. So yeah, it looks like that. And Washington County coming in with an early dismissal. Somewhat, Evelyn, it looks like 5 messages about Croom, Maryland. Unfortunately for you, I'm not sure where Croom is, but you probably know where it is on a map. And yeah, I mean, Hartford County, you're also under that risk. Yeah. So right now, that is kind of the overview of what we know, right? Widespread severe weather risk tomorrow, likely the highest across portions of Maryland and Virginia that are east of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and we will continue to watch this threat. And it's really going to come in a couple of waves. Up first, we'll see some supercell thunderstorms that will try to develop. That's very much dependent, though, on how unstable the atmosphere can be tomorrow. And then we're going to have to watch that main squall line that continues to move to the east. Evelyn, for the Upper Marlboro area, sunny and 75 for tomorrow. It's very much the same forecast in PG County as it is everywhere else, as we've been saying. So go ahead and keep it tuned right here to GB Weather for the latest information. I'll be with you throughout the day today and tomorrow, continuing to keep you updated. Latest alerts will be posted across social media platforms. You can get my latest updates on Facebook, on X or Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and then always the website, jbweather.net, for the latest information. In the meantime, I'm Forecaster John Bordash. Thank you so much for joining me right now, and please keep it tuned right here to JB Weather for the latest information.
Check the forecast anytime online at jbweather.net.